Today I wanted to talk about not knowing. Not knowing is something that we've been exploring in the mornings lately. And I want to talk about not knowing as an active way of being more than a passive way of being. So sometimes when we think about not, we think about a negative or a negation. Oh my goodness, I can't know. I have no way of knowing. And yes, that's true. We can't know. We have no way of knowing. Is this a bad thing? Good or bad, it's just the way it is. We can't know. We can't know everything. So if we can flip not knowing from a negative thing or a passive way of being in the world to an active way of engaging with this world, we can find a lot more spaciousness in the way that we are, and things can be huge. So this is what I wanted to talk about. I wanted to start with a koan today. So this one is from the Book of Serenity, the case number 20. And in it, Dijang asked Fayan, "Where are you going?" And Fayan said, "Around on pilgrimage." Dijang said, "What is the purpose of pilgrimage?" Fayan said, "I don't know." Dijang said, "Not knowing is most intimate." Not knowing is most intimate. How can this be? And where's the intimacy? And I think this is something that is really in all of our face right now as we are in this place, even globally, of not knowing. I was noticing this week. As you know, last Saturday, we received the results of the presidential election right at the close of lecture. And we have all, regardless of our political views, been waiting and waiting and waiting. Well, if we could just find the results, have the results of this election, which just drug on for days and days and days, then I'll be satisfied. And likewise, we are all stuck in this not knowing space of the coronavirus and its effects. Well, if we could just have a vaccine, then I'll be satisfied. Then this will all be over. Then this election will all be over. Then my suffering will all be over. Then I can get off of Zoom and back to my life. And the thing is, there's no back to. This is our life right now. And the more we pull ourselves out of this life right now into that perfect place over there, the more we suffer. I don't want to negate that we're suffering here right now and that it's hard. But this is what's on our plate. This is our only choice. This is what we have to work with right now, is suffering. And in the middle of it, there's not only suffering, there's so much richness as well. It's when we come to a place of not knowing as a way of being, as an intention, that we can start to let go of that. Where are we going? Around on pilgrimage. What's the purpose of pilgrimage? I don't know. Not knowing is most intimate. What if we shifted this for our current circumstances? Where are we going? What are we doing? When is this virus going to end? Well, we're on Zoom. What is the purpose of Zoom? I don't know. Well, not knowing is most intimate. How can we understand a sense of intimacy during this time when we're not able to touch and be with each other? What is intimacy anyway? How does intimacy manifest? Everyone knows, all of us know uh, how to be useful in the world. How about appreciating the function and the power of uselessness? We think that the way that we need to be is to do stuff, to accomplish stuff, to win stuff, to gain stuff. What if the way that we're being shifts to the power of being with what is? No stuff, no winning, no gaining, just here. How can we get here and create a sense of spaciousness? Of course, this is what our practice offers to us. When we sit, when we practice, we continually come back to this moment, this moment, this moment. And as you all know, as we're sitting and practicing zazen, we often feel this feeling of real tightness and stockness, much the same way that many people are feeling in our society at large. And we also know that as we continue to practice, then that tightness lessens. And the more comfortable we get with being present here and now, being present to what is, the more spacious we feel. We can cultivate this not just in our sitting practice, but in the way that we engage with the world. This is true intimacy, not knowing. I remember this week in the hospital meeting a person who was quite ill. And we talked, and they really they knew how ill they were. This is a person who has COVID. And they said, you know, I've had some times in the past where I was worried that I would die. They had had some bouts with cancer many, many years ago. And I've come to a place where I understand that I can't know when I get to live and when I get to die. And that gives me a sense of spaciousness. This is where we met in this conversation. Two people in a closed hospital room, separated by so much, the person in the bed, fearful, unable to breathe well, not knowing actively, separated from their family. The person visiting them, me, completely swathed in protective gear, so that really the only part of me you may be able to see is my eyes. But even the eyes are covered by a shield. And trying to connect across these barriers of fear, the barrier of illness, the barrier of literal protective gear. And you know what? We could connect in this place of not knowing. It was quite beautiful and intimate. Me with no solutions whatsoever to offer, and the patient with no outcomes whatsoever to cling to. It was very tender and very sweet. So I left, took off all my stuff, my protective gear, and felt hopeful. I hope this person gets better. I hope this person recovers. And it looked like they would. They were kind of in the middle. They weren't yet on the breathing tube, and some difficulty breathing, but maybe hopeful. And then I came back the next day and they weren't doing so well at all. And I felt sad. I had left a place of not knowing and entered a place of wanting a particular outcome, of course. So I had to really take a step back and again engage with not knowing. Well, yesterday I didn't know. And you know what? Today I still don't know. And here I am. Today is not knowing. I feel sad. Not knowing a particular outcome and acknowledging the sadness gave me a sense of spaciousness. I cannot fix this. There is nothing I can do. I cannot know as an active way of being with this rather than waiting for something to happen. Not knowing. I don't know. I can't know. So I'm going to show up just with what is. Today, what is. And this is how we get through all of this. When we're sad, we can be sad. We don't have to paste on something that's not real. And when we're not sad, we don't have to be sad. We can enjoy the sunshine and the leaves and the blue sky. And that's okay too. Even in the midst of so much suffering, there's so much spaciousness in not knowing. I've talked to you before about ambiguous loss, and I want to revisit that. It comes from the work of Pauline Boss, who was a researcher. And ambiguous loss, just to refresh your memory, is different from our ordinary loss that we usually have, and that there's no certainty. There's no certainty. It often, usually we talk about it in like if somebody's missing and we don't have their body, we don't know what happened to them. So there's no certainty, for example, that the person would come back or return to the way they used to be. Right now, we're dealing with ambiguous loss as a whole society. There's no verification that something is truly gone. And at the same time, we have no certainty about what's coming. We have no certainty that things will return to the way they were before COVID. And I could say we have some pretty good certainty that they will not, because we're not in that place. When we get through this, if we do, then the one thing that is certain is we will be together in a post-COVID place together. Our human relationships are ambiguous loss shakes us up. And Pauline Boss talks about both the trauma that this causes and the frozen grief. And the frozen grief was something that I also experienced this week. When we have so much grief and really not a certain particular something to hang it on, then it's hard to actually grieve. We just feel this pervasive feeling in our bodies that we know we're feeling sad. We know that we're feeling grief, but we can't quite express it. So for me this week, that broke when I learned that one of my family members had died of COVID. And I had a particular person to grieve for and was able to grieve, to cry, to be sad, remembering this particular person whom I loved. And I want to tell you that as sad as it is, it's also a bit of a relief. Ambiguous loss is so huge and it's so unending that it's hard for us to work through what we need to do to grieve. The one thing that we can count on, though, is that we are together in this place of not knowing, as we always are. In our sorrow, we grieve together. In our happiness, we rejoice together. Everyone knows the useful function, but not so many appreciate the power of the useless. The power of the useless, what is that? This is where we are. This is the power of not knowing. So, in ambiguous loss, what we can learn is that we cannot recognize ambiguous loss in others until we really start to recognize it in ourselves. And what we experience as ambiguous loss in ourselves is dependent on us. There's not a one size fits all for ambiguous loss. What have we lost during this time period and before, maybe? What have we lost? Some of us have lost our jobs, found new ones, or not. Some of us have lost connections with our family. Some of us have lost our family members. Some of us have lost our health. Some of us have lost a sense of certainty or even a sense of freedom. Some of us have lost time, especially those who have kids and are trying to care for children at home at the same time as keeping up a job. Lost spaciousness. There's so many different losses happening simultaneously right now that we have to understand what our own are. We each have a different history and a different background. So, with so much ambiguity, like our losses cannot be acknowledged and supported until we start to recognize them. And what Dr. Boss recommends for working with ambiguous loss is not so much getting your own personal therapist, but coming together in community and sharing. Which is really interesting to me. This is also the way I feel. What we really need right now as we enter into the fall and into the winter is to really come together and support each other in our practice. One person who was working with Dr. Boss said that, it's not easy, but an untenable situation can be maintained indefinitely. I can stand not knowing. Yeah, this is what he said. An untenable situation can be maintained indefinitely. I can stand not knowing. We can all stand not knowing, especially when we make not knowing into something that we actively do. We must stand not knowing. This is all there is. This is all there ever is. And right now, circumstances have really pushed us up against that. So, in some ways, our current circumstances have given us a much stronger motivation to practice diligently. I will not call this a gift. It is a stronger motivation to practice. What we're going through is really hard. And the way that we are going to do this together is together, supporting each other in all of our difference. Community. coming together, even on this method of coming together that we call, Zoom, computers. So what? This is what we have. This is what we're going to work with. Let me come back. Not knowing. The more we engage in our practice and realization as one, the more we can find a sense of ease and not knowing. The more we try for some particular outcome, the more dis-ease we actually can feel, because that separates us from what is. So when we're hoping or trying for this outcome over here, then that's actually pulling us out of where we are. We can be okay where we are. We don't have to be happy every day. We don't have to be sad every day either. We just go through our day with what we have each day, not understanding. And most of all, our dharma of being humans is to work for the benefit of others. This is what we sign up for. So as we're present every day, working for the benefit of others, practicing our silent practice for the benefit of others, this is why we always dedicate the merit of our practice to the benefit of all beings. We don't do this for ourselves. This is what helps us to keep going. The motivation, this is not for me as a separate person, this is for all beings. And as we continue to practice in this way, we develop faith that this practice is beneficial for me, for all beings, because me and all beings are one. And as we develop the faith that this practice is beneficial, others start to see that in us, and thus we inspire others to develop faith for themselves. This is that hope that I was speaking of last week. Why do we have to understand everything? When I was thinking of this topic, not knowing as most intimate, I was remembering my cat. I had this cat called Pumpkin, and I adopted this cat. And he was a really large cat, a Maine Coon cat, 18-pound cat, very fluffy and sweet, and the weirdest cat I have ever met in my entire life. So strange. And I know cats okay, but this cat was so weird. And in fact, in the beginning, actually, I was concerned. so, I was like, oh dear, am I doing things right? I mean, is this cat okay? Really? I don't remember all the weird stuff he did, but he did weird stuff constantly. Um, yeah. so, I had him at the vet once, and he's still pretty new. And I was talking to the vet tech, and she was like, Tinku, yeah, Pumpkin's weird. But the thing is, I have this cat, and every night when I go to sleep, my cat has to sit on my feet, and then it walks up to my head, and it licks my eyebrow 3 times, and then it goes back to my feet, sits down, nest, and then comes back up to my head, licks my eyebrow 3 times. And it has to do this 3 times before it can settle and go to sleep. And she was like, initially I was like, no, I don't, no, that's gross. I don't like my eyebrow being licked. And she said she resisted this and it made her unhappy, the cat unhappy. And then finally, when she settled into it, she was like, who knows why that cat does that? Cats are weird. That's why we like them. That gave me so much ease. Cats are weird. That's why we like them. So then I started to think of Pumpkin as, I used the word sublimely weird. And the things that he did that were so odd were endearing and fun. One time he actually ate a bite out of a taco, just crunched in his a little cat mouth bite in the side of this unattended taco. And I just, why? Why did you do that? I just had this picture of him, with, I don't know, like the whole taco truck metaphor coming up and him like going after tacos. So there can be an ease in not knowing. And this is what I really wanted to bring home. Not knowing is most intimate. This is the ease. We don't know what's going to happen day to day, even moment to moment. And this not knowing is really what allows us to deeply, deeply, deeply connect with each other from a place of tenderness and care. This is how we're going to support each other through the winter as things get cold and dark, as people get ill. Open-hearted, with intimacy. Yesterday I connected with a friend, really, really dear friend. We've been friends for a long time. I don't know, almost 30 years. And she lives in another country. So we talked on, the same, like you always do. I think we were on Skype or Messenger, one of those things. So we're talking, and she has advanced breast cancer. And we both were filled with the intimacy of not knowing as we spoke with each other. Now the last time I talked with her, she still had long hair. Now she has no hair. She looks like me. So here we are looking at a mirror of each other. And just really through this medium, connecting, not knowing. Will we ever see each other again? I want so much just to take her into my arms and hold her. No way I can do that today. And not knowing when I can do it again. Not knowing if she's going to live or how long she has to live. We know that she will not live, just as all of us will not live. What we don't know is how long we have. And all of this not knowing, the virus, the distance, the illness, made that one meeting so precious and so beautiful. And as I was looking at my own reflection on this computer of another bald person, loving me as much as I was loving them, Buddha meeting Buddha, we both welled up with tears, just of pure love and appreciation. This is what we can offer in the world. So one thing that this time has given us is an acute awareness of how precious life is. So let's support each other. Let's treat each other with kindness and compassion. Let's be here for each other. I wanted to end today with a poem that I like. It's by Jane Hirschfield. It was like this. You were happy. It was like this. You were happy, then you were sad, then happy again, then not. It went on. You were innocent or you were guilty. Actions were taken or not. At times you spoke, at other times you were silent. Mostly, it seems you were silent. What could you say? Now it is almost over. Like a lover, your life bends down and kisses your life. It does this not in forgiveness. Between you, there is nothing to forgive. But with the simple nod of a baker at the moment he sees the bread is finished with transformation. Eating, too, is now a thing only for others. It doesn't matter what they will make of you or your days. They will be wrong. They will miss the wrong woman, miss the wrong man. All the stories they tell will be tales of their own invention. Your story was this. You were happy, then you were sad. You slept, you awakened. Sometimes you ate roasted chestnuts. Sometimes persimmons. Thank you.